We are one episode away from catching up to the leaks, so in a week, everybody will just be the same.
We learn that some people actually go to the House of Black and White to die, willingly. There's only one God, his name is Death, and there's only one thing we say to Death. But it's basically the continuation of Arya learning to toss away who she was, her identity, in order to gain more skill.
But when it comes to Needle, she just can't do it. Because it's not just a weapon for her. It represents her history, her family. Like, Jon gave it to her. Needle represents a bond for Arya. And I think what we're supposed to understand from that scene with, like, the dead man is that... Because she asks, so what do you do after you finish cleaning them? And I guess what we're supposed to understand is that they use their faces as masks. We cut over to the bedroom with Marjorie and Tommen, and the only thing I can think of is, where are Natalie Dormer's boobs in this? Same thing that happened with Emilia Clarke. In the beginning it was all fine and dandy because they were trying to make it big. You could watch, you could see. But then it's like, oh no, I'm making it big. I don't need to do this. This scene is a total power play, and it's interconnected with Cersei, because in the beginning, like, you see the people like just, Queen Marjorie, we love you, piss on our face, Queen Marjorie, we love, and Cersei is noticing this, so she's like, fuck, like, I'm losing power. And if you study Marjorie, you'll find that what she's doing is really smart, because she's trying to manipulate Cersei through her children, and that's Cersei's Achilles heel. Like, you just don't fuck with the lioness's cubs. So you have Tommen in this episode telling her, hey mom, would you mind fucking off, like going over to Casterly Rock and staying there until you die? Who do you think planted that thought in Tommen's head? Marjorie. Even Littlefinger says that the title that Cersei holds is just, it's becoming more irrelevant by the day. So it's kind of funny because you're seeing Cersei begin to drown little by little. So much so, in fact, that she does something that I've never seen her do in this series, which is go and ask or seek out help. Because Tywin's dead, Tyrion is in Essos, and Jaime's not there.
We get introduced to the High Sparrow. He seems like a cool dude so far, and I like this because it's basically addressing the actual reality of the fact that within religious factions, there's always going to be like the hypocritical side of things, and then you have actual good people that are trying to live for what the religion actually stands for. And by the way, the High Septim, the guy that was caught with the prostitutes, that guy was the same guy that married Tommen and Marjorie.
In other news, it kind of looks like the mountain has been successfully turned into like some mindless zombie that's going to be used as a weapon later on. When it came to Brienne's backstory, I kind of wonder if the fact that Renly was gay, like maybe he possibly suffered a lot of discrimination and bullying just like Brienne did. And maybe that's why he felt a very strong sense of empathy for Brienne. But the main thing here is that Brienne has just decided to go and kill Stannis. And she is heading north because Sansa and Littlefinger are going to Winterfell.
Well, look at that. An actual reference to the book title, A Feast for Crows.
And I think Littlefinger spoke for a lot of fans in this episode when he actually just straight up told Sansa, you've seen your family get killed and all you've done is just sit in your room and cry. You gotta start doing shit. But I still feel bad for Sansa because even though there's some truth to what Littlefinger told her, like, she's still a piece in his game. And that's still a manipulation tactic. Now, I think the point of this entire story of A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones is that eventually all these individual stories are going to come together. They're going to intersect, and characters are going to start meeting up. Which brings us to Jon. Get the execution of Lord Janos, who is basically a coward. And, he did beg for mercy, so at first I was kind of like, oh man, Jon. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, no, this would be the equivalent of, like, being in medical school, and then you run into a student who's crying, and then you ask him, what's wrong? And then he tells you, I just don't know anything about human anatomy. If you don't know anything about human anatomy, what the fuck are you doing in med school? If you are a coward, and you're at the wall, then there's no way that you're serving the purpose that you're there to serve. It's just counterintuitive. It's, these people are the border patrol, essentially. Stannis wants to give everybody a green card.
I think the best part of that scene is definitely when Stannis looks over at Jon and he just gives him that look of like, yeah, you did right. You did right. Now that thing may eventually end up coming back to bite Jon in the ass, or it may not.
I love this because everything going on in the north is going to connect. Eventually. Because, on one hand, you have Roose Bolton saying, if the other houses of the North, decide that they don't like us enough and they rise up against us, we are fucked. We do not have enough men to beat them. You can tell there's a pretty strong mentality of insurgency going on in the North because that lady who talked to Sansa, she said, the North remembers. And that's not even considering the fact that Stannis is also coming to town from the wall with his own army. I mean, I think these people are ready to fight. They just need somebody to follow. That person could be Jon, and I think that's why Davos was trying so hard to convince Jon to just leave and go to Winterfell, meet up with Sansa, and you have a Stark reunion. United we stand, you son of a bitch. Also, Theon knows where like he recognizes Sansa, so I wonder if eventually, if shit goes down and something horrible is about to happen to Sansa, I wonder if Theon is maybe gonna try and help her. I mean, just to try and make up for the amount of fuck-ups that he's committed in the past. Big fuck-ups, Theon. Just do it for Robb. I really liked Davos' speech, though, about, like, the incongruency of Jon staying at the Wall, because if he really is looking out for the greater good, the best place to be is where you are the most useful to people. They even have the Godfather line in this episode where Jon says, you know, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And then Stannis says, whoever said that didn't have a lot of enemies. So I was waiting for Al Pacino to be like, fuck you, man. But he never showed up. Finally, Tyrion gets captured by Jorah at a brothel. And, you know, it's kind of like weird. Like, you're supposed to be misled because Jorah says, I'm taking you to the queen. Well, which queen? You know? I guess the assumption is, I think they want people to think that it's Cersei and be like, oh, like Tyrion is fucked. But it's actually, it's Daenerys. Before that, though, there's a very creepy scene with a red priestess. And they play that creepy music.
Oh, the Hunchback of Notre Dame!
Kind of sucks to be Tyrion at the moment. I mean, he can't even, you know, have intercourse with whores anymore because he's like, I just can't. Because I think of Shay. In fact, refusal was actually in a lot of these scenes. Arya refused to throw away Needle. Jon refused Stannis' offer, and Sansa, for a moment, refused a little bit of, like, Littlefinger's plan. Those are your comments. I encourage you to leave more of them so that they can be featured next week. Thank you so much for watching. Like the review if you did, I appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel if you're interested in getting more Game of Thrones reviews. Catch you guys later. Valardo Hayres.